You think you know them. The friend who always checks in, the partner who says all the right things, the colleague who smiles just a little too easily. But what if behind that warmth there's calculation? What if the people closest to you are playing a game? Machiavelli once said, "Everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are." He didn't trust words, he trusted reactions. And now, centuries later, neuroscience confirms what he knew by instinct. Words lie. Behavior doesn't. In this video, you're not just going to learn how to spot fakes, you're going to test them. These aren't petty games or cruel manipulations. They're psychological stress tests backed by modern research from behavioral scientists like Robert Cialdini, Daniel Kahneman, Robin Dreeke. Because in a world where trust is currency, the cost of being naive is your peace, your purpose, sometimes your life. These are 7 psychological tests, some subtle, some bold, designed to strip away the mask and expose the truth. No confrontation, no accusations, just patterns, behavior, reactions. You want to know who's real? Don't ask, observe. Let's begin. Test 1. The scarcity shift. You've been showing up, answering their messages quickly, making time, initiating plans, being available always, but something feels off. They've stopped appreciating your presence. They expect it. So one day, you stop. No warning, no drama, you just cancel a plan. Let a text go unanswered. Delay your reply. Stop reaching out first, and then you wait. This is the scarcity shift, and it's one of the cleanest ways to separate the loyal from the opportunistic. Because in influence, Dr. Robert Cialdini explained something that Machiavelli understood centuries ago. People assign more value to things that are less available. It's basic human psychology. We want what's scarce. We undervalue what's always within reach. So by withdrawing just slightly, you activate their instincts. Now here's the deeper layer. You're not punishing them. You're observing them. There are 3 types of responses that reveal everything. The genuine, they notice. They check in. Not because they need something, because they care. They say, "Hey, I haven't heard from you. Is everything okay?" The taker, they vanish because you've stopped feeding them. No energy, no attention, no perks. They evaporate without a trace. And suddenly you realize they were never really there. The controller, they react. They demand to know why you've changed. They'll guilt trip you, shame you, or accuse you of being distant. But listen closely. What they're really saying is, "How dare you stop playing your role in my script?" This isn't just a social test, it's an emotional audit. And it works because most people only show love when they're reactively receiving something from your time, your validation, your usefulness. But when that's gone, only the authentic remain. Machiavelli once warned, "It is double pleasure to deceive the deceiver." But this test flips that wisdom. Because, no, you are no longer the one being deceived. You've stopped giving by default. And you're watching what happens when your presence becomes a question mark. Don't mistake silence for peace. Sometimes, silence is proof of disinterest. And sometimes, it's the only way to hear who someone truly is. So do the scarcity shift. Not to punish, not to manipulate, but to measure. Because when you take away the benefit, you finally see the bond. Test 2. The no-benefit filter. What happens when you stop giving? No favors, no praise, no validation, no emotional support, no opportunities, no connection, no energy freely handed over. You're not being cold. You're just still. And suddenly, the air changes. This is the no-benefit filter, and it has a powerful way to expose those who are only attached to you for what you provide. Because every relationship, whether personal or professional, has an invisible equation running underneath it. And the moment you stop contributing to that equation, their true loyalty is revealed. In the Code of Trust, former FBI agent Robin Dreeke writes, "Trust is not built on charm or connection. It's built on the absence of agenda." But let's be honest, most people have agendas. They may not even realize it. But when you're useful, you're valuable. And when you're not, suddenly, you're invisible. Here's how to run the test. Stop giving. Don't offer the ride. Don't remind them of the meeting. Don't fill in the silences. Don't show up unless invited. And then, take notes. You'll encounter 3 reactions. The user, they disappear quickly. No confrontation. Just absence. You were never a person. You were a service. And when the service ends, so does the relationship. The opportunists, they test the waters. They might check in, but only to gauge if the benefits can resume. They'll compliment you, probe you, try to re-establish the supply. But the moment they realize it's not coming back, they're gone. The loyal, they stay, even when there's nothing in it for them. Even when you're not offering anything. They ask how you are. They listen, not because it's profitable, but because it's human. This test works because it starves the connection of reward. And as psychologist Robert Cialdini noted in Influence, when the rule of reciprocity is broken, people either grow bitter or disappear. You learn who was fueled by affection and who was fueled by extraction. The hardest part, some of the people who fail this test are the ones who used to praise you most, the ones who said, "You're amazing," but what they really meant was, "You're amazing at making my life easier." Machiavelli would have said, Men are quick to forget the benefits they have received. And when you stop providing those benefits, they don't just forget, they flee. So don't be afraid to stop giving. Because if your presence is only welcomed when it comes with perks, it's not presence they value, it's performance. And you're done performing. Test 3. The spotlight frees. You've been the light, the glue. The one who speaks up, lifts the room, carries the conversation. You've made others feel seen because you are always visible. But now, you go still. In a group, at dinner, on a call, you say nothing. You don't initiate, you don't rescue the awkward moment. You let the silence do the work. And now, you get to see who actually sees you. This is the spotlight freeze, one of the subtlest yet most powerful psychological tests. You're withdrawing your social currency, your charisma, your contribution, your emotional labor just enough to observe what's behind the curtain. Will they bring you back in, or forget you the moment your light stops shining? In thinking, fast and slow, Daniel Kahneman explains that people make snap judgments based on availability bias. What's most present and active in front of them. You've been available, so you've been valued, or so it seemed. But what happens when you dim the brightness? Here's what happens. The supportive, they notice. They ask, you've been quiet, what's on your mind? They invite you back into the space. They value your presence, not just your performance. The indifferent, they don't notice. Your silence is convenient. One less person to consider. You realize you were filling the air, but never filling their thoughts. The insecure or controlling, they react awkwardly. They may mock your silence, make passive-aggressive remarks, because your stillness threatens their dynamic. Your energy was fueling them. Without it, they feel small. This test reveals something painful. Most people don't actually see you. They see the version of you that makes them feel good, and when that version goes silent, so does their interest. Machiavelli warned, the vulgar crowd always is taken by appearances, and the world consists chiefly of the vulgar. This test cuts through appearance. It asks, if I offer nothing right, now, not joy, not talk, not performance, do I still matter here? Because true friends don't need you to entertain them. True allies don't need you to shine every time. They know that silence doesn't mean absence, it means depth. Try this in a room full of friends, at a dinner table, on a group chat, anywhere you've always held the emotional spotlight. Withdraw. Say nothing, let the silence grow, and see who checks in, who speaks your name, even when you're not speaking. This is how you find your people, not when you shine, but when you go dim. Test 4. The micro-betrayal trap. Trust is built in layers, word by word, glance by glance. But betrayal, that slips in through the smallest cracks. So here's the test. You create a fictional secret, a detail mild, believable, but sensitive, something you wouldn't want repeated. Then you share it with only one person, and you wait. This is the micro-betrayal trap, a psychological landmine hidden in plain sight. You're not being deceptive, you're being diagnostic. In You Can Read Anyone, Dr. David Lieberman explains that the people most likely to betray you rarely start with a stab in the back. They start with a whisper, a test of your boundary, disguised as curiosity. Why does this work? Because betrayal is not usually born from malice. It's born from weakness, from the compulsive need to be interesting, to be in the know, to feel powerful for 5 seconds in someone else's shadow. So when you hand someone a secret trail or not, you hand them a choice: protect what was shared, or leverage it for connection, gossip, or validation. There are 3 ways people fail this test. The leaker. Within days, someone else references your secret. Subtly, indirectly, but unmistakably. You're left staring at the only person who could have shared it. They'll deny it, of course. But denial without explanation is confirmation. The spinner, they don't leak it verbatim, but they paraphrase. They turn your story into a hypothetical. They say, what if someone did this? They test whether your vulnerability gives them influence. The observer, they don't leak it, but they treat you differently afterward. Their tone shifts, their respect lowers. They mentally filed away your weakness, not to protect you, but to position themselves above you. This is where Machiavelli's genius comes in. He wrote, everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. But what he left unsaid is this: some people, when given access to your private world, will sell the map. So plant the seed, a fake wound, a made-up regret, a crafted confession, something believable but not real. And then watch. Who respects your privacy? Who violates it? Who changes after they think they've seen you weakened? Because if someone mishandles a made-up secret, what do you think they'll do with a real one? And here's the brutal truth. The people who fail this test often wear the mask of warmth. They're charming, attentive, empathetic, until they're not. But now, you've learned. You didn't confront. You didn't accuse. You simply gave them a rope and they chose how to hold it. Some people tie it to you. Others hang themselves with it. Test 5. The boundary slam. Say it. One simple word. No. Not with venom. Not with guilt. Steady. Unapologetic. A casual ask that costs you but benefits them. Just calm watch. Say no to something small. A favor. And then This is the boundary slam, and it's not about saying no to be difficult. It's about saying no to see the truth. Because boundaries are mirrors. They don't show you who people pretend to be. They show you how they react when you're no longer easy to control. In daring greatly, unclear is unkind. Round says, clear is kind. But clarity comes with risk. Because when you draw a line, some people will try to erase it. Your peace, your priorities. Here's how it unfolds. You decline something small. You choose your time. You don't explain. You don't overcome. Respectful, you just say, I can't help with that right now. No drama, not just your compliance. No punishment, not this time. That doesn't work for me. And their mask starts to crack. There are 3 kinds of reactions to observe. They make you feel guilty. They nod. No problem, they adjust. They say, they move on, no tension. Really, these people value you. Exploder, manipulator, the abundance, then they smile. Robert Greene writes, so many of us do. Suddenly they say things like, wow, I thought we were close. They imply your no is proof you've changed, grown distant, become selfish. But what's really happening? They're losing control, and they hate that. They clearly, with conviction. This is rare but revealing. They lash out, withdraw, or escalate. They keep, no didn't hurt them, it exposed them. Because your boundaries feel like rejection to someone who never respected them in the first place. In the 48 Laws of Power, despise the free lunch. Meaning, never become the thing people feel entitled to consume. And yet, we become emotional ATMs, time machines. Energy outlets. Until we hit decline. And when we do, we finally see who's been depositing love, and who's just been making withdrawals. Boundaries aren't about distance. They're about definition. They don't push people away. They reveal who is only close because the door was always open. So slam it, just once, softly, and watch who knocks again respectfully. Because saying no isn't the end of connection. It's the beginning of clarity. Test 6. The power flip changed nothing, except the way you carry yourself. Stand a little taller, speak a little slower, make decisions without hesitation. Don't ask for permission. Don't ask to be liked. Just own the room. And now, the air changes. This is the power flip, the moment you subtly shift the dynamic. And it's one of the most quietly explosive tests you can run. You're not being rude. You're not being arrogant. You're simply acting like someone who knows their worth without needing confirmation. And you'll be shocked how quickly some people will punish you for that. In the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene warns, never outshine the master. But sometimes, you don't even have to outshine anyone. You just have to shine confidently, and it's enough to trigger everything they've been suppressing. Here's how to run the test. Next time you're with people you've always deferred to or made yourself small around, flip it. Speak first. Disagree politely, but firmly. Share a recent win without downplaying it. Walk with the quiet certainty that you no longer need validation. And then, what? You'll see 3 kinds of reactions. The secure ally, they smile. They support your strength. They're not threatened, they're inspired. They may even step back to let you lead. These are your people. Keep them close. The silent competitor, they grow cold. Their praise fades. They change the subject when you speak well of yourself, because your glow shines light on the shadows of their own insecurity. They liked you better when you were small, manageable, predictable, contained. Now, you've become a mirror, and they can't stand what they see reflected back. The passive saboteur, they mask it well. They'll smile, even congratulate you. But behind the scenes, they plant doubt. Little jabs, disguised as jokes. Subtle discrediting in conversations you're not in. Undermining disguised as concern. I just hope they don't get too cocky. This is envy in its most polished form. In the laws of human nature, Greene expands. People disguise their envy with smiles and support. But deep inside, they are calculating how to bring you back down, and they often do it without words. Through energy, through withdrawal, through subtle resistance that erodes your momentum over time. The power flip test doesn't provoke, it reveals. It shows you who was never clapping for you. They were clapping for the version of you that stayed in their shadow. So when you rise, don't just look forward, look sideways. Because some of the people walking next to you only planned to celebrate you at half your height. This is not about dominance. It's about honesty. You don't need to shrink to be loved, it's management. And if you do, it's not love. So flip the power. Reclaim your posture. Speak like you've arrived because you have. And see who quietly tries to send you back. Test 7. The disappearing act. What if you vanished? No explanation, no drama, no emotional storm. Just silence. You slowly pull away. No texts, no calls, no chat. You don't make yourself available. You simply stop showing up, not to punish, but to observe. This is the disappearing act, the final and most definitive test of all. Because when you remove your presence, you remove the performance, and what's left is who they really are. In attachment theory, psychologists call this a withdrawal response test, because people's behavior when they lose access to you reveals the true quality of their connection. Was it emotional? Was it manipulative? Was it even real? Here's how to run the test. You don't make an announcement. You don't say, I need space. That gives them a chance to craft a response. You want instinct, not strategy. You vanish and you wait. 3 patterns emerge. They're secure. They check in gently. Kindly, they say, I notice you've been quiet, just making sure you're okay. No assumption, just presence. These are the people who see you, not just your output. The dependent, they panic. They spam your phone. They project onto your silence. What did I do? They demand an explanation because your absence threatens their stability. These are people who weren't building a relationship. They were building emotional dependence on. Your distance feels like abandonment because they never truly held their own center. Not a word. You disappear and their life continues untouched. Maybe you crossed their mind but not enough to reach out. And now you know. You weren't invisible because you stopped talking. You were invisible all along. There's a 4th kind, the one most people don't notice. The aggressor. They take your silence personally. They lash out. They accuse you of being cold, dramatic, manipulative. Why? Because you've broken an unspoken agreement. You stopped playing your role in their emotional theater, and that threatens their control. In the Laws of Human Nature, Robert Greene writes, absence can inspire respect or contempt. It reveals the emotional investment of others with crystal clarity. That's the genius of this test. Because absence doesn't just test affection, it tests entitlement. Some people think they own your time, your attention, your presence, until you take it away. And what they do in that void, it tells you more than 1,000 conversations ever could. This is a dangerous test because it hurts. It forces you to feel the silence, to wrestle with who never cared, to mourn who never showed up. But it's also the most honest, because someone's reaction to your disappearance is the most unfiltered version of their truth. Machiavelli once wrote, the promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. And when someone breaks their silence after you disappear, what they say and how they say it will show you whether they ever truly meant what they promised in your presence. So disappear softly, without anger, and see who comes looking, not with panic, not with guilt, but with peace and patience and care, because those are the ones worth returning to. Bonus test, the mirror trap. Stop leading, stop adapting, stop overperforming just to make others comfortable. Instead, reflect, match their energy, their effort, their tone, mirror their communication pace, their level of care, their curiosity or their lack of it, and then you'll see it, the truth they've been hiding behind behavior. This is the mirror trap. It's subtle. You're not testing them with absence. You're testing them with symmetry. Because when you reflect someone's behavior, you force them to confront their own reflection. And you can read anyone. Dr. David Lieberman explains that most people live unconsciously. They act from habit, instinct, ego. When you reflect their energy back to them, you interrupt that autopilot, and the result is either sell or sell. Here's how it plays out. Let's say they text you with dry, dismissive energy. You reply the same way. They suddenly say, you've changed. No, you've mirrored. Or they check in late, vaguely, inconsistently. So do you. They accuse you of becoming distant. No, you just stopped compensating for their distance. And that's the moment the mask slips. Because what they're really saying is, I liked it better when you covered for my emotional laziness. You'll see 4 responses to this test. The grounded, they adjust. They recognize the reflection. They rise to meet you. They say, hey Avinov, I appreciate you reflecting that. These people are rare and real. The narcissists, they panic because your mirror breaks their illusion of superiority. You're no longer chasing, no longer clapping louder than they do, and that's unacceptable. They may retaliate, criticize, gaslight, accuse you of being cold, passive, but what they're actually saying is, you're no longer playing the role I wrote for you. They're confused, they don't understand what's happening, but they feel it. Your stillness disturbs them. Your balance reveals their imbalance. They may withdraw, not out of malice but because they don't know how to relate without being chased. You've held up a mirror to their emotional immaturity. They're grateful, yes, they exist. Those who take your mirroring as an invitation to go deeper, to reconnect, to examine their behavior and meet you halfway. These are the ones you can build with, because when mirrored, they don't flinch, they grow. Machiavelli once said, a man who is used to acting will always find someone willing to play along. But when you stop playing along, you expose the actor. The mirror trap doesn't confront, it reflects. And that reflection is often unbearable for those whose actions don't match their words. Here's the beauty of this test. You don't have to guess who they are. You simply become who they've been, and let their reaction tell you everything. Because the ones who love you for your effort will resent you when it's gone. But the ones who love you for who you are won't need chasing, explaining, or pretending. They'll see themselves in your stillness and choose to change the reflection. Why do people lie with smiles? Why do they fail your tests? Why do some vanish, others explode, and some slowly betray? The easy answer is, they're toxic. But that's not the full truth. The real answer is harder to face. They're afraid. From the moment we're born, we start learning the rules of survival. For some, love was conditional. For others, safety meant silence. And for many, the only way to be accepted was to pretend. Carl Jung called it the persona, the social mask we wear to meet the world. It isn't evil, it's armor, it's protection. But over time, some people confuse the mask with their identity. They don't just wear it, they become it. You meet someone, charming, affectionate, but they're not showing up as themselves. They're showing up as the version of them that gets accepted, admired, obeyed, or adored, until they can't hold it anymore, until the test reveals the tension, until you say no, until you grow, until you stop performing and they don't know how to meet the unfiltered version of you. So they sabotage, or vanish, or turn cold, and you're left wondering, what did I do wrong? But maybe the better question is, what wound did I step on without knowing? People who are deeply insecure often become controlling. People who feel unworthy often overcompensate with performance. And people who fear abandonment often abandon first so they never have to feel it themselves. That doesn't make their behavior okay, but it makes it make sense. You see, not all betrayal comes from hatred. Some comes from heartbreak they never healed. Not all silence comes from indifference. Some comes from the terror of being exposed. And not all failure in your tests comes from manipulation. Some comes from a lifetime of masking, hiding, and not knowing who they really are. So here's the shift. Don't carry hate. Carry wisdom. You're not excusing the behavior. You're understanding the route so you can stop watering the same weeds in your life. Because when you realize someone failed your test, you don't have to become cold. You don't have to call them out. You don't even need revenge. You just let go. Machiavelli taught how to navigate a world of illusion. Modern psychology explains why that illusion exists. Most people aren't trying to hurt you. They're trying not to drown. And in the process, they'll grab anyone nearby even if it means pulling you under with them. But now, you've learned to swim. And that means you no longer need to save people who are pretending to float. You ran the tests. You pulled back. You mirrored. You said no. You disappeared, and now, you know, the mask slipped. The pattern was revealed. Someone you trusted. So what do you do with the truth? The world tells you to confront, to expose. Silence is louder than truth. To get closure, but sometimes, and peace is louder than revenge. Because here's the deeper lesson. Not every truth needs to be shared, but every truth must be honored. So what now? 1. Don't confront it. You don't need to prove that you caught them. You don't need to explain how they failed. That gives them the spotlight. You don't owe anyone a speech. You owe yourself peace. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. 2. Don't argue with behavior. Words can be twisted, avoidance, or betrayal who they are. Apologies can be, but patterns never lie. So when someone shows you through reaction, don't debate it. Don't wait for proof. Don't wait for the next wound to be sure. Believe what you saw, and move accordingly. 3. Replace closure with clarity. Stop chasing the apology that may never come. Stop trying to fix what was never whole. Closure is not something they give you. It's something you build in private. Clarity is the real closure, and distance is the proof that you've claimed it. 4. Reflect. Not to blame, but to build. Ask yourself, why didn't I test them sooner? What part of me wanted to believe the mask? What red flags did I override because I was afraid of being alone? This isn't self-blame, sharpen its self-upgrade. Because every failed connection holds a mirror to the version of you that needed healing too. 5. Don't harden. You don't need to become cold. You need to become clear. Keep your softness. Keep your empathy. But add discernment. Add boundaries. Add fire in your backbone that says, not again. Machiavelli didn't just study power, he studied pattern. They're giving you a gift. And now you've done the same. You've watched. You've tested. You've learned. You no longer live by hope alone, you live by evidence. And once you've seen the truth, don't go blind again just to keep the peace. Because when someone fails your test, a moment of clarity disguised as disappointment, honor it, act on it, and never apologize for waking up. You've seen the smiles. You've heard the words. You've been pulled close, only to be pushed away. And maybe like so many, you've started to wonder, is there anyone real anymore? But the truth isn't hopeless. It's revealing. Because now, you've been through the process. You didn't guess. You didn't assume. You tested quietly, strategically, intelligently. You used silence instead of confrontation, space instead of speeches, discernment instead of drama. And what you found was truth. The scarcity shift showed you who values your presence. The no-benefit filter revealed who only stayed for gain. The spotlight freeze uncovered who truly sees you. Made the silent competitors flinch. The micro-betrayal trap exposed the snake in disguise. The boundary slam separated respect from entitlement. The power flip, the disappearing act, showed you who notices when you're gone. And the mirror trap It forced people to face their own reflection in your stillness, and after it all, you stopped blaming them. You looked deeper. You saw the persona, the wounds, the fears, the performances passed down from childhood, from trauma, from culture. You didn't just expose others, you expanded yourself. Now you know. Some people fail your tests not because they hate you, but because they've never met themselves, and that's not your responsibility. It's your redirection. So what happens now? You act. You walk differently. You listen differently. You no longer confuse energy with effort, proximity with loyalty, affection with depth, or smiles with safety. Because now you understand the most powerful principle of all. Trust is not built by promises. It's built by pattern. And it's tested in your quietest moments. Let others wear masks. You'll wear clarity. Let others perform. You'll observe. Let others fall apart when the light fades. You'll remain whole, honest, sharp. Because the real power isn't just knowing who they are. You'll get clarity. It's knowing who you become. Once you stop trying to save those who failed the simplest test, being real when no one's watching. If this awakens something and you subscribe, you won't just get content. And don't stop here, because the deeper you understand people, the harder it is for anyone to ever use you again.